Caption of this meeting. Please view the meeting on the SMUHSD board meeting YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on our website. You may view the captions in English as we live stream our meeting tonight, and you may view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch this meeting after it has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. For our deaf and hard of hearing community, we have a team from Hannah Interpreting Services, and they will be interpreting our meeting this evening. We would like to ask everyone to speak at a clear and reasonable pace for our interpreters. Thank you. Can I have the student board reps lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. The board unanimously, approved action to grant an application to submit a late claim number 2023-01544. The board unanimously approved to deny a claim number 2023-01544. Okay, we will move on to adopting the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Thank you. So we have a motion by Trustee Land and a second by Trustee Griffin.
Point of order around the.
Oh, yes, I am so sorry.
It's okay. Staff is requesting to pull item X3, which is independent auditor's report, and bring it to a future meeting.
Thank you.
So I'll accept that as an amendment to the approval.
And I'll still second it.
Thank you. So Trustee Land moved to accept the agenda as amended, and Trustee Griffin had seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Is there any discussion? No? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, board operations. Approval of the board policy 1313, civility and consequences for inappropriate behavior. Go ahead, Superintendent Booker.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first board meeting of the 2024 calendar year. I want to thank our students, board reps for being here as well. And this evening, we're bringing forward some revisions to board policy 1313, civility and consequences for inappropriate behavior. I don't think it's lost on anyone that over the last several months, we've had some challenging board meetings, challenging discussions, and challenging discussions are good. We welcome public input. We welcome the back and forth. We become a stronger community when we connect and communicate. Unfortunately, we've had some challenges there where communications are not connecting. They're not bringing us together. They're actually dividing us in many respects. And so working with district staff and the Board of Education, we are recommending the approval of revisions to Board Policy 1313. And as you can see attached to the agenda, the public can read the memo and review the revisions. I would like to call out just a few sentences that I think speak to the spirit of this revision. This policy it's not a new policy. Board Policy 1313 has been a part of our district for many years, but we thought it would be important to use this as an opportunity to set district-wide expectations or in how we communicate and how we treat one another, treat the community, and maintain a safe and orderly environment, really in essence, so the board can get their work completed and we can achieve our goals as a district. I do want to read the preamble of this policy as I think it's important in setting the expectations. It reads that the governing board recognizes the impact that civility has on effective operation of the district, including its role in creating a safe and positive school climate and enabling a focus on safety, student well-being, learning, and achievement. The board believes that all people should feel safe, protected, and be treated with dignity and respect in their interactions within the school community. We all have the right, and when I say all, I mean everyone here at the dais, everyone in the gallery, online when they provide public comment over Zoom or on our school sites. We all have the right to perform all of our duties in a safe and civil environment. It's the intent of the district to promote through this policy mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct amongst everyone. It's in the intent of this policy to encourage positive communication because we believe that positive communication, respectful communication is what will bring about achievement of our goals. We want civil behavior, or we define civil behavior as being polite and courteous and reasonable, respectful to others, with integrity, honesty, acceptance, timeliness, dependability, observance of laws and rules, and effective communication. Students, staff, parents, guardians, and community members. We want everyone to communicate and behave in a manner that does not cause disruption, that does not hinder the orderly conduct of our operations, the educational program, or any other district program or activity. In other words, we want to talk with one another. We want to build in our relationships, connect, and achieve our goals. So one of the things, if approved this evening, if the revisions are approved, when it comes to our blue comment cards that if you come into our audience and fill out because you want to provide input through public input opportunities, stapled to the blue comment cards will be the civility policy moving forward so that our gallery here in the audience can review what the expectations are. And this will be a policy, if approved with these revisions, that will be posted on our district website as well as our school websites, because it doesn't just apply to board meetings. It applies to how we interact with one another during sporting contests, at our school sites in meetings, telephone calls, emails, all of those kinds of things. Public, we want to hear from you. Educators, we want to connect with you, but we want to do so in a way that encourages active and courteous communication. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to allow me to introduce this important policy.
Thank you, Superintendent Booker. Are there any questions for Superintendent Booker? Trustee Land?
So my question is really regarding just procedures. Usually when we do ARs and adopting board policies, usually we take and we're amending them. Usually we put in red ink, you know, what we usually do with the change of policies.
Mm-hmm.
The changes, this is what it was, this is what it is. I think that's important. I think I understand why we're doing this now and all that, but I would like to kind of contain or keep what the operation of what we've done in the past, because then when we're doing it, we note, okay, this is what was,
Mhm.
this is what we're adding, these are the adoption changes, blah, blah, blah. So I just think it's easier for a board, for us as a board to be able to look at it that way.
To
So
choke it. Mhm.
yeah.
I appreciate that, and we'll definitely do that moving forward. I want to assure the public that as a part of the board memo, we did list the link to show the current policy. It's
Right,
there,
right.
but we didn't do what you're describing, which is the lining back and forth so
Right,
the
'cause then we
public
can
can
look at-
see
yeah.
old versus new. I
Right.
think part of the reason behind that is we reshaped this policy to such a degree for flow and continuity that the lining, I would have almost had to redline the entire policy and almost starting from scratch in the sense of prose,
Right.
which is a little bit of a challenge. But I do hear you, Trustee Land,
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
Trustee Griffin, you had a question?
No, just a comment. I think at least at this point, it's a well-conceived policy. And I think we need to take that first step. I hope we don't nail this thing down so it can't be reviewed and adjusted accordingly, because I think it's more like a living document than it is
Mhm.
something set in concrete, so.
I would agree with that.
Does anyone have any more comments or questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve
I'm sorry,
the?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we have a hand raised.
We have one hand
Oh,
raised.
okay. Sorry, I can't see the screen very well, so please, yeah, if you see this, excuse me, if you see somebody that needs to speak, yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Olena Babich.
Go ahead.
Please turn your camera on, Ms. Babich.
Oh, sorry. Hello, everyone. Thank you to board President Ligia Andrea Zuniga, Vice President Robert H. Griffin, Terry Chavez, Greg Land, and Jennifer Jacobson for opportunity to present today. My name is Elena Babic, and I am the ESL specialist at San Mateo Adult School. Today, I'm proud to say we have finished ESL registration for the spring semester, and I would like to share with the board some data.
It's not the right
I'm
time.
sorry, we're out of order of our agenda, so can you hold tight? We will get to you when we get to that, excuse me, when we get to that
Mhm.
item.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, though. Just hold tight. We'll be with you in a sec. Thanks.
okay.
Okay, going on to the approval of the policy. I move to approve. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by trustee Jacobson and a second by trustee Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay. Approval of board policies and administrative regulations. Dr. Black.
Yes, both of the next two items would usually have been on consent. Inadvertently, they're on the regular document. Both of them were discussed at reviewed and discussed at the last meeting. So the first one is the part 2 of the 2023 legislative updates for approval.
Thank you. Excuse me. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, item 3.
And this one is our interdistrict transfer, our interdistrict attendance policy. It was reviewed and discussed at the last meeting, and it's for approval.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Jacobson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to public comments. If you are joining us in person and wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comment section at the beginning of the agenda, please fill out a request to address the board form and submit it to the secretary. This form should be given to the secretary before the agenda item begins. If you are joining us virtually, use the raise hand feature on Zoom to be recognized. When invited to do so, your camera must be turned on before you are called upon to make a public comment. We will call on you to begin your comment once we have promoted you into the meeting. If your camera is not operational, please email your comments to the Board of Trustees at board, BOARD, at SMUHSD.org. Please note that the comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. Do we have any public comments in the audience?
We have one on Zoom. I'll bring Ms. Babbage back.
Thank you.
You may begin, Ms. Babbage.
Yes, hi, sorry. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the board, President Ligia Andrea Zuniga, Vice President Robert H. Griffin, Terry Chavez, Greg Land, and Jennifer Jacobson for the opportunity to present today. I'm the ESL specialist at the San Mateo Adult School. Today, I'm proud to say that we have finished ESL registration for the spring semester, and I would like to share some data with you. We have several types of students in the registration, but who participate in the registration process. So it's first of one, this is currently current afternoon only students. They have a priority during the registration. New students and returning students. So the students who were enrolled but dropped a class. Each group has its own distinct registration process for enrollment and placement. Usually during the registration session, we accept 50-60 students, and we have to turn off about 50-100 students. So a little bit more data. This semester we register 40 students during the priority registration, 158 for morning and 222 for evening classes, and 118 returning students. Also, we registered 50 students for listening and speaking classes, which total 588 students. And also we have 75 students on a wait list. So our classes are pretty full. This process involves a collaboration of almost all office staff and few teachers and 30 to 50 students ambassadors. I must to say, we would not able to do it smoothly and successfully without helps of our students ambassador. They help us a lot during the registration. During the previous year, we have about 100 students who had volunteers at least once. So students help us during the registration, CASAS testing, data collection, and in the classroom, volunteer in the classroom, etc. So what this preliminary tell us? Is the persistence is up and fewer students drop out during the semester. This has been evident since we more comprehensively started enforce the attendance and testing policy.
Please start wrapping up your comment. Thank you. Go ahead.
Excuse me?
Start wrapping up your comment. We're almost up to the 3 minutes. So keep going, but just.
Okay.
She's doing the report for the.
So, and increase persistence and accurate attendance lead to increased students leading gains and student success, which gives school more resources. And I would like to do quick updates with career education. We started.
I'm sorry. I think that you are giving us a report, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, give us maybe another 15-20 minutes, and then it'll be your turn
Well,
for the
she's done most of
report.
it now, so I think.
Can we move the?
We can let her continue if you want, and then strike that adult ed.
Okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do is continue with your report, and then that way we'll be finished with your report. So go ahead. Sorry, continue.
Okay, and also as far as admin reported last semester, we have more $180,000 collected this past year due to increased CASAS testing and civics gains. and gain to enforcement of these policies. And also, I would like to do quick update with career education. We have very exciting new program of which we currently accepting enrollments. This is business entrepreneurship, how to start a business. Our 15 weeks introduction to business entrepreneurship course, which designed to provide a strong foundation in the fundamental and of business planning, knowledge and skills needed to succeed in the ever evolving world of business. Also, we currently accepting enrollments for Microsoft Office Excel 1 and Excel 2 certification, Microsoft Office PowerPoint, and Google Suites Basics. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other public comments?
No, President, we do not.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to governing board comments. Do any of our trustees have any governing board comments?
Thank you,
go
President
ahead.
Andrade Zuniga. I just want to mention a couple of things. Earlier this week, was it last week? The week's all, okay. I attended the Citizens Oversight Committee for our bond measures, and it was a great meeting. We have a lot of amazing folks on that committee. We watched about a 3-minute video, and I thought that the video was well put together. So thank you for that, Mr. Hawkins. It's also been shared on social media, so I recommend that folks watch that. I believe it was probably also sent as part of a district-wide communication. I think it's a great 3-minute video regarding all of our facilities, current updates that are made, and also future updates. And I just think it's great because all of our schools are included in the video. And also wanted to mention about a survey that parents in the school district. So I received it this week, and you probably received it too, Trustee Jacobson, about the logo. So I think that's great that we're asking our community and our parents regarding the survey about our new logo. It's exciting that we're going to get a new logo. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was all of our sports teams. They're amazing, amazing coaches, amazing students. I'm seeing a lot of shout outs in the newspaper regarding students from all of our schools. So I just wanted to congratulate all those sports scholars out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody, go ahead, Trustee Griffin?
Boy, I trying to figure out what I did last week, and I knew I did something. There was several activities, and one of them certainly was sitting through the COC meeting, and nice to get caught up with some of the activities. The other thing, I sat through the logo sort of the task, the meeting of people, and I really want to compliment the collective board for the past 30, 40, 50, 100 years, because when we looked at the mission statement, all the stakeholders there really thought that it held together. It was timeless, and somebody along the way had done some hard work at it. So, and then we went into the equity vision and mission, and those things really do ring true. So, and it was a good session on anyway. And I hope they don't adopt my suggestion for a logo.
Aw. Does anybody, yes? Trustee,
Please.
Trustee Jacobs?
Yeah, thanks. So Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and Dr. King said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I'm happy to say that as part of the Peninsula Multi-Faith Coalition, I helped lead up. We had several different projects with over 500 volunteers from different faith traditions working on different projects throughout the community on Monday. And one of the projects was with our Hillsdale Peace Garden. building new planter boxes and varnishing picnic tables there. And that's not the project that I was involved in, but the one that I was involved in was assembling science kits for elementary schools. And it was great because there were some students from our high schools there, and there were some staff members in my project. And it was just a coincidence, but it was great to rub shoulders in that way and spend some time on Martin Luther King Day doing service. And so I thought I'd report that. I'm glad that members of our community at large and also our SMUHSD community were involved in that. Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Land.
I'm just gonna say, yes, I also enjoyed the Martin Luther King Day off, and just one of the things that I was thinking about was all the strife and troubles that have been going on in our area and in the world, and just his "I Have a Dream" speech really resonates with me, and just it's what I wish our whole country and board and everyone around us can hear and listen to and adopt. So anyway, the only thing I do have to tell you is that I apologize for anybody who's been trying to get a hold of me by email. My SMUHSD email I have a new phone for Christmas. So I have a new gift, but had no way to get my SMUHSD email. So if y'all been trying to get a hold of me, I'm sorry, but now I have it thanks to everyone here, a couple people here in the back helping me out. So I'm back online. So I will be returning those thousands of emails that I just found I have. So that's it for me. Oh, I did want to say next Monday is the San Mateo School Boards Association dinner, Cage to Community. We have a great speaker. Board members, if you haven't signed up, please sign up. It'll be a great event. It's at the county office and it's dinner provided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. I would like to first read land acknowledgement that was developed by the Cappuccino High School students last year. The Cappuccino High School community acknowledges that our campus lies on the ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone. The Ramaytush are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula, whose land was stolen from them and whose native language was lost because of Spanish colonization. As settlers on the stolen land of the peninsula, we should be alongside the Ramaytush, remembering and honoring their ancestors and relatives. We, here in this school district, thank the first people, the Ramaytush Ohlone, for taking care of the land we use now for education and activities. Our responsibility of caring for the earth is unique and personal to each of us, but should be rooted in allyship with the Ramaytush Ohlone so we can work together to protect and preserve the land of future generations. I want to say Happy New Year, Feliz Año Nuevo to everybody. It's a time to start new and to have new goals and things like that, but also in continuing good things that we had started last year. For example, like Trustee Griffin was talking about the logo. What I really took from some of these workshops is everything that that this district means to our community. Some of the things that the community was sharing, it was very refreshing, especially after some pretty tough meetings we've had. So that was really, really nice. I want to say thank you to our students at Bridge that have been writing to us. I'm getting to all of the emails, but thank you. I think it's really important for students to be part of the process and to learn about what it's like to reach out to their leaders, to elected officials, and just to be able to articulate what they're interested in changing or what's going well in their community. This is also School Board Appreciation Month, and I wanted to extend my gratitude and my respect for my colleagues all across the county and all across our district. So thank you. I think it's really tough to be a board member right now. So everybody who is giving their time to our school districts, thank you. There's a quote by Kofi Annan that says, "Knowledge is power, information is liberating. Education is the premise of progress in every society and in every family." I also wanted to thank our IT folks who always take care of us with our technology. And I also wanted to lift up our staff that keeps our communities clean and safe. And thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you to our ASL and our language interpreters for also providing access to our community. A few updates or a few events and things. The North Peninsula chapter of the ACLU will be hosting a virtual open house for people that are interested in knowing what the ACLU does in your area and how you can get involved. It will be on March 7th, so stay tuned for that information. The Youth Leadership Forum is a program that assists and educates and empowers our youth with disabilities. Every year, they have a conference that they put on at Sacramento State for students with disabilities. We are looking for applicants now, so if people are interested in applying, please apply. Our transition to Independence Fair through the Commission on Disabilities will be on February 10th on a Saturday at the Office of Education in Redwood Shores from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that is a resource fair for youth with disabilities that are transitioning into adulthood. And lastly, I wanted to encourage and to make sure that everybody is registered to vote, especially our young people. If you are 16, you can pre-register. So please do so. It's very, very important. This is an extremely important election year. So please make sure that you are registered. So that concludes my report. Anybody else that has something they want to mention, Leslie?
Yeah, I know I already spoke, but I wanted to
Yeah.
chime on to what you said about the voting, because it really is, it's really important. And I want to give a shout out to our teachers, because both of my daughters, one last year and one a few years ago, they both registered to vote while they were in class, because the teachers are encouraging that. So I just want to give a big shout out and to say it's so important, very important.
Thank you. Thank you. And please make sure that you are being mindful of the flu and COVID. We still have people who are immunocompromised and people that are that it will be really difficult for them if they get sick. So thank you. Okay, going on to item N, communications to the Board of Trustees. And at this point, we have none. Going on to item O, recognition. I will turn this over to Superintendent Booker.
Thank you very much. So tonight we bring a proclamation for your consideration and approval for National Black History Month. Kaya Jimenez, a student from San Mateo High, who contributed to updating this proclamation, will read it for us.
Hello, I just wanted to thank the board for allowing me this opportunity to work on and read this proclamation. So, San Mateo Union High School District proclamation recognizing February 1st to February 29th, 2024 is National Black History Month. Whereas each year during the month of February, the citizens of the United States celebrate Black History Month and the actions, words, and achievements of so many Black Americans who have contributed to the success and prosperity of the United States. And whereas Black Americans have enriched our society through their commitment to promoting fairness, equality, and justice for all. And whereas August 2019 marked 400 years since the first arrival of Africans to present-day America, and the United States Congress established the 400 Years of African American History Commission to commemorate the historic heritage and active contributions that Americans of African descent have made to help shape the cultural, academic, social, economic, and moral attributes of this nation. And whereas, in spite of the African slave trade that solidified the institution of white supremacy in this nation, Africans and African Americans have nonetheless continued to persevere and move forward in society, fighting for their freedom and also for the freedom of all Americans over time. And whereas in 2008, the first African American president of the United States was elected, and whereas in 2012, President Barack H. Obama was elected to serve a second term, and whereas in 2012, California historically elected the most African Americans to serve in the legislature, totaling 12 members. And whereas in 2020, Kamala D. Harris was the first female and first African American and first Asian American woman elected as Vice President of the United States of America. And whereas in 2022, the first African American Congress Party leader, Hakeem Jeffries, was elected to lead the Democratic Party. And whereas 2024 marks the highest number of African American members serving in the United States Congress, totaling 62 members. And whereas Black history is American history, and understanding and appreciating the experiences of Black individuals is crucial to understanding the full story of our country. And whereas San Mateo County is fortunate enough to be located near hubs of Black innovation and Black history like Oakland and San Francisco, of which we strive to learn from. And whereas Black History Month commemorates many different achievements of African Americans, whether that be in academia, business, fine arts, political action, and science. And whereas these achievements should not be recognized without considering the many sacrifices of Black individuals who continue to sacrifice because we do not live in a post-racism society and oppressive institutions still exist as a result of the past colonization, exploitation, destruction, and pain of Black individuals. And whereas the Black students who enrich our schools and communities share a unique experience of being in our classrooms, can feel estranged, targeted, and othered among their peers as a result of being only 1.9% of the total student populations. And whereas Black educators contribute a valuable and unique perspective to the classroom and serve as role models and mentors for our Black students who may not see their identity reflected in their environments or curriculum. And whereas we celebrate and are inspired by the strength and perseverance of Black students as they strive to reach higher levels of education despite facing economically and socially oppressive systems. And whereas the San Mateo Union High School District, SMUHSD, seeks to support and empower students of all races and backgrounds, and whereas SMUHSD's equity vision states, all students will learn in a safe, inclusive, equitable environment that validates, respects, and honors their unique backgrounds, interests, and identities. And whereas SMUHSD equity mission states, we will continually identify, disrupt, and eliminate institutional biases and barriers to ensure that all students have the skills and knowledge to thrive physically, emotionally, and academically. Whereas the SMUHSD Board of Trustees approved racial equity policy BP 0415, which states the Board of Trustees seeks to ensure that policies and practices produce equitable outcomes for students who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC. The district's mission, vision, and goals recognize that educational excellence for all students requires a commitment to racial equity, and whereas the district recognizes it can and should continue to make progress on the SMUHSD Board of Trustees approved racial equity administrative regulations, which calls for adopting curriculum and instructional materials that include diverse voices and perspectives. And whereas on January 26, 2023, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved a request from the Cappuccino Black Student Union to fly the Pan-African flag at all district schools and sites during the month of February per board-approved flag display procedures. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing board of the San Mateo Union High School District that the district takes great pleasure in recognizing February 2024 as National Black History Month, urges all citizens to join in celebrating the accomplishments and persistence of African Americans during Black History Month, and encourages the staff and students of SMUHSD to recognize not only the many different talents of African Americans, but also the great achievements, contributions, and sacrifices that they have made to help create equity and equality for all. San Mateo Union High School District passed and adopted on this 18th day of January, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Nice.
much. Bravo. Okay. May I have a motion to approve of the proclamation?
Can
Well-
I make a comment?
Yes, can we do comment right after the motion?
Oh, I forgot how that was supposed to be. Okay, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, great. So we have a motion by trustee Griffin, second by trustee Land, all in favor. Wait, one sec.
Wait, discussion before you vote.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead, trustee Griffin.
Okay, it's well written and well conceived, and I appreciate all the effort you and the committee put together. You know, I hope the board noticed there about the board was being called out about the materials and keeping everything real or 100 or whatever they say out in the hood. So the other thing though, I would have I'd like one more whereas, and I don't really expect it to be in there. Because I mean, you know, the choice of words, it flows. It's very optimistic about accomplishments, but my whereas is whereas there's still much work to do to overcome, eliminate racism, bigotry, hatred, and all those things, because there is a tremendous, you know, we're not anywhere near the top of the mountain that Martin Luther King was leading us to. So but I appreciate it, and I'm going to vote for it since I made the motion. So thank you.
Well
Thank
said.
you. Is there any other discussion? I'd like to say something. So this proclamation, this is great because it gives representation to our communities and it brings to light the importance of different communities. The only thing though is, you know, proclamations, resolutions, all that are great, but we have to always, every day, live that, not just when we recite a proclamation. And, you know, I really love like specific days that are meant to be for specific reasons, recognizing like MLK's birthday, things like that. But we should be making sure that our communities are safe and fed and clothed and supported all the time, not just on one day. Because people are, it's like when we volunteer during Christmas, right? That's great and everything, but people are hungry all year round. And so I just want to, you know, make a call to action for our people in our communities to always want to volunteer, always want to feed the community, always want to house the community, have that love for the community to be prosperous. So I appreciate the proclamation. Thank you to our students. One of the things I forgot as well was to ask the student board reps, how do you vote? Go ahead. How do you vote for the proclamation?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And then so all in favor on our board too? Aye.
Aye.
I think I did that totally backwards. I apologize. But we also were supposed to take public comment. So is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that would like to give comment?
They are not.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Going on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So I have a motion by trustee Land and a second by trustee Griffin. Student board reps, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mhm. I don't know if this is this correct how this is done here? I don't know, I feel like it's a little,
That's correct.
okay, good. Okay, great, thank you. All right. Let's see. Coming down. Okay, going on to regular reports. Report by the superintendent.
Thank you very much. So as was already discussed, January is School Board Recognition Month, and I want to join everyone in the community in saying thank you to our Board of Education. We really need to celebrate boards of education. It's hard work. They all do their homework. They spend a lot of time working with our community, working with me, district staff, our educators, and really, it's not a cliche when we talk about tireless efforts as champions for our students and our educators. They work year-round to ensure a high-quality education for all of our students, and they do truly play an integral role in providing the best educational opportunities. I know out there's some districts that district staff works in spite of the board. This is a community where we work in tandem with the board. I said just, I think it was yesterday, thanking a trustee member really for expanding my thinking, walking away from our conversation, always, I don't know, just thinking deeper. And so I appreciate everyone's feedback. I really, really do. It helps me become a better superintendent. And I know it helps our processes and our education for all of our students. So thank you so much. Moving on, the Black Parents Association is seeking members. We've sent out a number of communications around this, but they are a 501c3, volunteer-led association that supports equitable and inclusive learning environments for our students. The group is dedicated to cooperatively promoting quality education for students of African, African American, or multiracial descent, while offering the best level of support and information to both students and families. In recent years, the association hosted numerous events via Zoom, including the Unity in the Community, a series of parent, student, and community engagement opportunities. This group is perhaps known best for its annual baccalaureate, which traditionally takes place in June to celebrate our graduates and award scholarships for students. In order to continue to be operational, the group needs a board of directors, including a president and a treasurer and a secretary. These individuals need to be at least 18 years of age, so the opportunity could be extended to recent high school graduates who have an interest in learning more about nonprofit management. If you'd like to learn more, please reach out to Laura Chalkley, our manager of communications, Trustee Griffin, or myself. We'd love to connect. And lastly, I just want to highlight we're holding our next Let's Talk event. And this is a community partner event on Tuesday, January 23rd, where we're bringing together leaders from San Mateo Union High School District, our schools, partner school districts, cities within our district, parent organizations, San Mateo County Office of Education, law enforcement agencies, and students. And as a superintendent of a school district, I really think adults should contemplate about the experiences of our young people, not just educators, but everyone in leadership roles within our community in order for us to have better outcomes for our students. And specifically, I have an interest in improving both academic and social emotional outcomes for our Black and Brown students. And I believe that as a community, we need the competence, the confidence, and the will to make this impact. We know we have work to do. We're going to be talking about it later on tonight with regard to academic progress of our students. And I believe progress can be initiated through the intersections that we're going to experience in convenings like this one. If this gathering is anything like our first Let's Talk event that we held back in September, we'll be among like-minded individuals who want to take action and have the power to take action to improve the future of our community's young people. I've invited Marguerite Van den Wingard to help facilitate this meeting. Her background is impressive, and I feel so fortunate that she's going to help lead us in this conversation. So we'll be reporting out about this at an upcoming board meeting, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be powerful, and I can't remember, how often we've been able to bring this amount of community leaders from San Bruno as far south as San Mateo Foster City together in one space to talk about the future of our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please to everybody that's been invited, please join us. Go ahead, Trustee Land.
Sorry, I totally forgot something. BHS and BIS is having a meet and greet. The Black Student Alliance and our affinity group tomorrow is having a meet and greet in the library of
Sweet.
BIS at 5:30 tomorrow. And I don't know if the students were going to report on that but I know that's happening, and you're all more than welcome to join us. We're trying to bring the high school and the intermediate, the middle school together.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Booker, for your report. Going on to our student board reps.
In our most recent student board meeting, we discussed the new rules that have been implemented to make board meetings more streamlined, focused, and positive. And in the past few months, many members of the school board have been honored to attend the focus groups to help gather inspiration for the new logo. And we're just really excited to see updates on the logo. In these focus groups, we collaborated with the logo company to discuss community values we wanted to see reflected in the new logo.
Thank you for letting us be here. As mentioned by Superintendent Booker, members from the student board will have the privilege of joining a task force to help with the implementation of support systems for incoming students, especially students of color and from traditionally marginalized groups. As mentioned by Superintendent Booker, this focus group will be facilitated by Dr. Vanden Wingard, and we are honored to be there. One thing that we would like to highlight from across the district is that there are a lot of visual and performing arts concerts coming up in various schools across the district, and we'd like to celebrate that, the students' creativity, the hard work. I believe, in fact, Hillsdale has 11 coming up in the next couple months. So very impressive, and we just like to highlight that. And one last thing, from Aragon High School, I know you all, the board, approved a new class to start in the coming semesters, and students at my school are very excited about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I know when I heard about the wedding singer being done, I can't lie, I was really excited. But I also want to say how amazing these students are. I was able to sit in yesterday on their student board rep meeting, and yeah, they're amazing. Thank you. Okay, going on to the report of the District Teachers Association, Mr. Childress.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, President Andrade Zuniga, members of the board and district cabinet. First of all, Happy New Year. And it's always good to start fresh. And I know that the winter break is an opportunity for people to hit the reset button, as Superintendent Booker often likes to say. I do want to first commend the board and the staff for putting forward and now approving the updates to the board policy 1313. I think it's timely. I think it's the situation. The environment was palpable for a need for something like this, and I think the response and the changes are not only appropriate, but in the context of what's not only happening currently, but just who we are as professionals. I think the words integrity and respect and professionalism really ring true there. I also want to recognize, I totally agree with Trustee Griffin when he says that this should be a living document. I think the idea of integrity, professionalism, and respect really requires ongoing reflection and perspective as we heed the call to support and do what's best for the students of our community, and really of the families of our community. A couple of other things. First, Superintendent Booker mentioned our Black and Brown students and equity and raising up achievement for those folks. As you all know, the district has received quite a specific charge in terms of addressing the needs of our multilingual learners. I'm pleased to see that the district is starting at the top by staffing a position, or at least opening up the opportunity to staff a position for a social worker for the multilingual learners. This is going to be a really heavy lift, not only for compliance, but really to provide the service that is necessary to support the growing community of multilingual learner students. It's going to affect every teacher in the district and every program in the district. And the more that we can do to support teachers and provide time and energy to move forward in that direction, I think is really important. I think that providing that position is a good first step. And then I'd finally like to say a couple of words about the retirees who are announced. This time of year, you often start to see them sort of trickle in as we get into the spring semester. Miss Almos, Miss Tuttle, and Ms. Rusia. I know all of these folks well. Ms. Almos I've worked with at Hillsdale, I think her entire time in the district. And, you know, she's been just an asset to our world language department. She is loved by and loves her students, and she will be remembered for a long time. Ms. Tuttle, a fellow CTE teacher, has been sort of an institution at Mills, providing opportunity and touching the lives of so many students and providing experiences that they otherwise may not have in, you know, this age of social media and the internet. You know, the one thing I would charge the district with is to not let that program subside. I think every effort needs to be made to continue the work that she's done and really the institution that she's established there. Ms. Rustia, she's been in the district for just only a slightly bit longer than I have. But I just want to recognize her for, of course, all of her contributions to students in the district. But I also do just personally want to recognize her for the work that she has done for our association. She has served as a legislative council representative for our association, representing the teachers at Mills High School as the site president, and also has represented all the teachers in the district as a CTA state council rep. So congratulations to the three of you, and yeah, best wishes for the next stage in your lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going on to the next report of the CSCA, Chapter 519 Rep.
Good evening, School Board President, BP, clerks, and trustees, San Mateo Union High School District students. Glad to see you here, and other SMUHSD staff. I am Robin Clemens. I'm the Environmental Health and Safety Specialist for the district. I'm also the president of the California School Employees Association for the classified employees at our schools. During the first month of this year, we've been working with the district to support our classified staff, and together we're working towards building an equitable and manageable version of the athletic program. And I really appreciate all the extra effort everyone has given, from our classified to certificated to everybody that's been involved helping us get this program off successfully. I appreciate the district's support and willingness to hear all those impacted by the program and other things, but we have scheduled a lot of meetings with various individuals, groups, and for the next 6 months, or I guess to the end of school. And I really appreciate that we're allowed to continue doing this work respectfully with the district, and knowing that all suggestions, ideas, and changes will not be considered, and plans moving forward will be managed responsibly together by all parties involved. And I hope everyone's enjoying their new year. It's been better for me so far. I hope everyone feels the same. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I know, really. We already had a report by the adult, right? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to special reports and appearances. Go ahead, Superintendent.
I hand it to Dr. Kemke. Thank you.
All right, as we get our presentation up, just wish good evening to the Board of Trustees, and we're here tonight with Brian Simmons to share the second spotlight on student learning this year. And this is one of the three that we'll do this year, kind of related to our LCAP goals. Brian was here in September, and that is time we talked about our state test data and how 10th grade students are doing. Tonight, we're going to talk about on our graduation rate and progress our students are making that is based on our superintendent's prime directive that all of our students graduate. So we're going to talk about graduation rate. We're going to talk about the college and career indicator, access to college level coursework, post-secondary matriculation, how our students are doing after high school essentially. And then we'll take a quick look at the back to school survey results. Go to the next slide. As always, you even heard it as part of the proclamation, we center our work on our ultimate vision for students that will be reviewing the data, and it allows us to reflect on the vision that we make sure we're serving students in an equitable way and that we get closer to fulfilling our vision. Next slide. And our vision, our mission is the way that we go about doing that. So throughout the presentation, and when we get to the conclusion of it, we'll talk about some of the ways that we're continuing to think about the barriers that are in place for students that might not be succeeding based on that data. And then finally, for context, this does align to our LCAP goal area of every student is provided with academic, social, and emotional learning experiences that are relevant and inclusive. And it's really the essential part of the assessment of how we're doing as a district when we start to think about the main goal of a high school district is that our students graduate and that we're seeing them take rigorous, interesting, relevant coursework. So this really is one of our critical reflection moments from our team, and really look forward to having this discussion tonight. Go to the next slide. I'm going to pass it over to Brian to jump into the data.
Great. I probably should have picked a different color for the numbers there. Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Booker, cabinet. While the memo outlines the specific details about the class of 2023 and would obviously encourage the public to really dig into the 13 or 14 pages that is, this slide sort of highlights the key bright spots and the areas on which we can improve. First, it should be noted that 92% of our students, as indicated in red, which is really hard to see, of the class of 2023 graduated, and that we saw significant improvements among our multilingual learners, Pacific Islander and Latino students. We're going to discuss later to what we attribute some of these improvements, but we are certainly excited to see the growth in these three groups that have lagged behind their peers in graduation rate for years and continue to some extent. While we have some important bright spots to acknowledge, it's also noted here that we have some continued areas for growth, right, and improvement. First, as you can see in the memo and reflected here, our grad rate has hovered around 90 to 92% for many years. It's pretty consistent, plateaued, and certainly not the 100% to which we aspire. If we were to close our gaps in performance, we would likely actually be very close to that 100% number, right? So the sort of 8% that's lagging really is our historically underserved students. I will say that, you know, one of the key ways that students have second chances to make up the skills and credits that they might have failed and ultimately lead them to not graduating is our credit recovery scheme as a district. While summer school and our on-site credit recovery programs are good at helping students to get credits, to make up credits that they failed, they really don't do the kind of skill remediation that we really need them to. And that has then long-standing implications for future courses that they take. So we look to, over the next couple of years, to really rethink and revamp those approaches to credit recovery. The second measure that we're looking at here is the college and career indicator. and this is, in my humble opinion, I think I've said this to you all before, the most interesting, useful, kind of innovative metric that the state has ever created. It's intended to tell us, and any school or district in the state, what percentage of our students are ready for post-secondary options. And what's unique about it, right, is this multivariable sort of option, right? That so often it's like, well, did they pass the test or did they fail the test? And that's the one measure we use, right? But there are actually 10 different ways that students can demonstrate readiness for post-secondary options. And there's an equal number of college metrics and career metrics. And I just think it's really important to kind of point that out, and would really continue to encourage us to really use this in many ways beyond because graduation is the first, second, and third priority, but maybe number 4 is the college and career indicator. The specific ways that students can meet this indicator are outlined in the memo. It's sort of too complicated for me to go into it here. But as you can see, about 62% of our students in the class of 2023 met the CCI. And among that 62%, nearly 88% of the students met it via the A to G requirements that are required for UC CSU admission. Meanwhile, our Asian students, I want to call out here, continues to attain at very high levels of achievement on this measure, with nearly 85% of that group meeting at least one of the criteria. In addition, nearly 1,000 students took at least 2 higher level courses and received a C or better. While we have much to be proud of related to the CCI, we do, of course, have some continued areas of need that are outlined on the slide, but also in the memo. And I would just say broadly that nearly 40% of our students were not prepared, right? And we should at least have a number that is on par with our graduation rate, right? You'd expect that at least those numbers were together, right? That we were graduating students who were ready for post-secondary opportunities. And we continue to see subgroup differences, and we are not yet adequately offering or capturing some of the newer CCI measures that came online in the last couple of years. Meanwhile, we continue to see, and that's partly related to us actually literally just capturing them in our student information system. And in some cases, it's actually us providing those options to students. The third metric from our LCAP is a leading indicator for our college and career indicator attainment. And that's the percentage of our students who are taking 2 or more college level courses before they graduate from high school. So this is talking about the class of 2023, what percentage of them took 2 or more, and what we would call, so our college level coursework is our advanced placement, our international baccalaureate program at Cappuccino, or taking classes via dual enrollment. As this slide shows, 57% of the class of 2023 took at least 2 college level courses, either through AP IB or through the local community colleges. And the memo gives the specific details, but as you can see, we are continuing to see growth overall over the last 5 years in historically underserved student access. And as you can see in that last bullet under the bright spots, we are seeing significant improvement of participation in AP IB among a couple of our key subgroups. But despite those gains, we are we're seeing some stagnation in growth in participation. And we really do think that dual enrollment is probably the answer to sort of really increasing participation. And then the final slide that I'm going to review is data from our partnership with the National Student Data Clearinghouse. This partnership allows us to track how our students are doing once they leave us. As you can see here and in the memo, nearly 80% of our seniors last year attended some kind of post-secondary institution directly after high school. While these numbers have grown over the last couple of years, the numbers actually grow as you go a couple years out. The number grows a little bit, right? From 80%, it usually goes up to about 85%. We're only showing you sort of, because the class of 2023 only just graduated, 9 months ago or whatever it was. So we do see some incremental growth, but the vast majority of students who go to post-secondary options go immediately after high school. And maybe that's self-evident, but I wanted to make sure people kind of knew that. While there are some important increases in subgroup matriculation that are indicated here, I'd actually situate a little of improvement with the team of folks we employ each summer. In terms of like why we've actually seen some of the growth, I think in our African-American students and socioeconomically disadvantaged student participation is you all support through agreeing to fund this program called the Summer Melt program that we do every summer. So we employ district counselors and college and career advisors during the months, mainly in June and July, which is when a lot of the key deadlines that are required for students to submit paperwork or FAFSA forms or all sorts of other things. We actually have staff who follow up with students and track them and make sure they get that stuff done, because you'd be surprised how many students plan to go in late May to college and don't get there. Not because they weren't prepared or ready, they just didn't do the proper steps. And then they get distracted maybe by work or something like that. So the point is, I really do want to call out that group that, and we talk a little bit about their work when we give our summer school presentation every year. But I wanted to call it out here because I think it actually is having an impact on the improvements that we're seeing in students getting over the line of going to college. So in the end, I mean, I think we really want to see this continuing to grow, this number. And I'm going to now hand it back over to Dr. Kemke to conclude the presentation about kind of what we're doing about some of this data.
So we just want to share some of the ways that we're really closing and stopping the occurrence of racialized outcomes, thinking about how we really improve our instruction in the classroom. One of the ways is the work that we did around instructional leadership, freeing up our principals and assistant principals to really be instructional leaders on their campuses, to really focus our time and energy on what is happening in the classroom so that there is instruction that's compelling, engaging, and all of those things for all of the students. It's also the continuance of our anti-racist teaching, diversity, and equity work. We know that the majority of students that are not graduating are students of color. There are multilingual learners. So we need to continue to focus on the fact that there's something about our system that is creating these types of outcomes. And as a piece of that, really setting a vision for what our classrooms could look like is the work of our instructional framework. So setting forth on how do we create these classrooms that really are providing an environment where all students can learn and find success. We also have some more technical ways that we're really reaching each student individually to making sure they're meeting the graduation requirements, as well as enrolling them in the rigorous classrooms that we want to see. With our school counselors, they've been working with Hatching Results, which is a great partnership to provide them with ideas and professional development on how to provide tier 1 counseling to students through classroom presentations, as well as thinking about how to use their time to provide direct support to students. And then we also have courses that we know provide explicit support to students who may have skills that they need developed. They may need the additional language development, the self and social empowerment class, our advancement via individual determination, AVID is what we usually call that. We have English and math support classes. And oftentimes some of the schools will also have smaller class sizes for algebra, geometry to support students' success in those classes, because we know that if students have good grades in there, feel success, have the skills to move on, they are more likely to graduate and graduate in a way that will allow them to go on to college. The Community Literacy in Action, which is formerly known as the Academic Language Development course, again, specific support for our long-term English learners, and then our other supports for our students on IEPs. We also have continued to work on our multi-tiered system support, tier 2 teams, really looking and being strategic on how they're identifying students that may be struggling, and making sure that the interventions there are actually fitting the needs of the students. And we also have a lot of work when students stop attending school, kind of that intersection with the absenteeism and instruction, on how we're reaching those students and making sure that we're connecting with them and getting them back into school. We also wanted to take a quick moment. This is kind of, it is part of students' perception around how school is for them, is we just wanted to share a bit about the back to school survey. This was done in October. And really it gives us some input on how students experience school after the first 6 weeks. Some of the bright spots there was students' engagement was improved over last fall. So their indication that they're engaged in school, their access to technology, Wi-Fi is strong, and our teachers are using Canvas, our learning management system, with consistency. it's interesting when you have the word cloud that is the free response from students on like what is supporting them the most. The word that comes up really large, meaning that a lot of students are talking about it, is our flex time and tutorial. So students are really seeing that as a positive support and a place where they can get the help that they need. Some areas for growth and improvement are students' relationship with faculty and staff continue to be lower than hoped. So just thinking about how we ensure every student has a positive relationship with a staff member. 25% of our students indicated that in the last 6 months, they felt so sad or hopeless for 2 weeks or more in a row that they stopped doing some usual activities. And this one's alarming, obviously, but it is aligned with a lot of the data we're seeing coming from the CDC around our young people's mental health and feelings of sadness. So it's not so far off that, but it is still very, disturbing. And then 38% of our students indicated that what they learned in school is relevant to them outside of school. So I think that speaks back to some of the work that we're trying to do to create classrooms that are highly engaging, relevant to students. And so that's part of the work as well. And then, Brian, I'm going to pass it back to you for the final thoughts here.
Yeah, we're going to conclude just by articulating again something that I indicated in the fall. And that is, many of our students, but certainly those in the class of 2023, I actually happened to have a senior last year, had to have a student in this class, and they were in the middle of their second semester of 9th grade in March of 2020. And, they faced some extraordinary challenges since the spring of 2020. And in spite of those disruptions brought on by the pandemic, and then the subsequent kind of things, and then the pre-existing things that already existed, students will not only generally maintain the performance of those who graduated before them, but they actually outperform them in some areas. And while we continue to have much work to do to redress and close the gaps in performance among our students, the team-oriented approaches that are being implemented by our staff, of all shapes and sizes in terms of the scale of the things we're trying to do, are really to be applauded. And coupled with persistence and data-driven progress checks, I really think they're gonna serve us well, and we are gonna keep making some headway on this work, and we are committed to doing it.
Are there any questions? Comments? Trustee Lynn, I know you got something to say.
I just do want to be the first one. Poor Brian. No.
Go ahead.
No. First of all, I really think great presentation. I'm really happy to see we're delving into this. I wanted to ask some questions about flex time. Is that true of all schools? Do we have flex time at every school now? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it has slightly different. So some schools have more structure to it than others. So there, 3 of the schools have a tutorial or homeroom, as they call it, where students are assigned to a class to start flex time, and then they can go somewhere else or stay there and do work that they need to do, as opposed to the more kind of laissez-faire experience at Burlingame and Aragon and Mills, where students they sort of have free reign to go wherever during that time period.
So what schools have the more structured one? I might want to investigate
The
that
other
for
3 that
middle
I didn't
school.
say. So it's San Mateo, Hillsdale, and Cappuccino.
Okay.
And Cappuccino is doing it for the first time this year. The other 2 schools have had it for a long time.
Right. I'll come back to it because I'm trying to remember some of the questions that I had. But I really feel like, thank you for delving into this and in the learning. I think really at the end, trying to make that comment about where we were with COVID and that affects us, and the mental health is an issue. I'm glad that you addressed that in the presentation, both of you, because I think it's a critical component to learning loss and to where we are, and kind of a fact that we have to deal with. And I'm glad it's part of what we're thinking about and talking about. So thank you. That's it for me for now.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Chavez.
Thank you for the presentation. As always, excellent work, both of you. I just had a couple of comments. The graduation rates, if we're going to go back to that slide, or no, we don't have to, I'll just read off here. So it's great. The 92% of our students graduated with a high school diploma. So of course our goal is 100%. We're trending upward, I believe. So 92% is great. We want it to be 100%. I get that. My comment is about the multilingual learners is 68.5%. 6.4% increase. I'm assuming that's an increase over last year's graduation rate. So if it was last year, then that means last year was 62.1 if you do the math there. So I guess what I want to say is that's a 10% increase, which is substantial. And so although I'm not happy that it's 68%, and I think all of us here would like to see that number higher, but I do want to call out that that's a 10% increase over the prior year, if I did the math right. So do you think we can continue, if we continue on that trend, not that I know it's just a number, but behind those numbers are actually students that we all care about, all of us. And so I think that 10%, I just want to say, I think 10%, I want to get your thoughts on that. 10% is substantial. What do you think attributed mostly to that substantial increase?
Definitely, I mean, lots of staff. I mean, I look back at my colleague, Dr. Showman back there as one piece of the puzzle, right?
Nice.
Like, I think certainly our, the bridge program as
Uh-huh.
one component
Okay.
of really supporting our older multilingual learners, right? And the staff in general who are really working to both get kids day-to-day credit, in their classes, but then even school counselors and our EL counselors at the schools where we have those roles. Like, I think all of those folks are contributing. I mean, it's a team effort. There's no, you get 220 credits through a lot of steps and lots of people and lots of intervention. So.
And like Trustee Land, I forgot my second question, but I did want to mention that I have a senior at Cappuccino, and so I've heard some feedback about the flex time that the students there are appreciative of it. They're in favor of it. Thanks.
Yes. Oh, I have one. Student board rep Lowe, you have a question?
Hi, thank you for giving the presentation. I think it's really insightful to hear from a student perspective. My question is about the chronic absenteeism. And perhaps this is in the memo, how do you plan to handle this? Or just like,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different strategies, right? I mean, we actually think somebody referenced it earlier, the social worker strategy. So we've got now social workers, and we have 3 regional social workers. We have and a couple of district funded social workers for students. So that's one component, right? Is working with families and students on all the various parts of making sure students are supported so they can come to school. Then there's inside school and helping students get the motivation they need. And that's both students who have IEPs in some cases, who have case managers and all that sort of thing, and then students who don't have IEPs. I mean, I think one of the things that you're just newly on the board, but I think over the years we've been talking about, especially during COVID, a lot of students pushed away from the table of school, and so there's lots of reasons for that. And so it's honestly a 1-by-1 sort of diagnosis and intervention. We have attendance clerks who, I mean, there's basic things when you start to fall off. Then as you saw up there earlier, there's this thing called Tier 2 intervention. Maybe you've heard of it at your school site. Every school has a Tier 2 team. So when students start to demonstrate early in a semester, non-attendance, lots of Ds and Fs, folks are then engaging with those students and connecting them first with like a mentor. That's one of the ways that we often start, is just giving you another adult to kind of pay attention. We call it checking in and checking out. And then it ramps up from there, right? But there's really lots of different things, but it's a lot, because in some cases students are missing school because they're working.
Yeah.
And so that's complicated, because that's really about the students doing that because they need the money, right? So then it's like, well, how do you get support for the student and the family? So there's lots and lots of elements to why students are chronically absent, as well as I didn't mean to discount. There's also lots of mental health that's going on as well. So mental health issues. Hopefully that answers your question. It's a lot.
yeah, thank you for the response.
Any other questions? No? Good.
I do have one if we have the
Yeah,
time.
go ahead.
I saw that the FAFSA got pushed back this year to end of December. Will that change be continued, and do you predict that impacting this students attending post-secondary institutions?
I mean, I think we'll see it. So this is a one-time thing because they've changed the FAFSA. So that's what the federal government basically needed more time to finish it. So that's the only reason. It'll always be back in the fall when it normally was. We didn't see most students really get serious about the FAFSA until last year when we started actually dealing with it in classrooms, because it's now a graduation requirement. We really had never really seen students really get serious until the beginning of the second semester of their senior year. So I think it's probably going to be not that different. It's just a heavier lift for all of us, because you're you're shortening the time. So for those of you who didn't know, the FAFSA is the federal form for financial aid, and it is required of students who want to get financial aid. The timeline has been shortened this year because as I said, the federal government wasn't ready, unfortunately. The deadline is really once you go to college. I mean, most colleges want you to finish it by March. But it's also connected to taxes and things like tax filings and that sort of thing. So but in general, families have usually tried to get it. We've really encouraged families to do it in the fall. But this year it's just a shorter timeline. So our staff is working on that now. Our college and career financial aid team is working with students and really it's not even students, it's really families that complete the FAFSA. So.
Thank you. Well, and with the tax deadlines changing.
Extended, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them got extended.
Yeah.
Trustee Jacobson, you had a question. You're
Oh,
next.
yeah, thanks. So yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you so much. This was a great presentation. So I noticed in the memo that with the multilingual learners comparing to other districts in the region, Palo Alto and South San Francisco, no, not South San Francisco, never mind. Palo Alto was pretty high, 88%. So I wonder if have we looked at them? Do we know if they have something that we can copy that's working? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Everybody else
little,
was kind of
I
around the
did put the cohort size there to also kind of give some
Yeah.
context. So it's 35 students, right? So I
Oh,
think
yeah, I
it's-
didn't notice
I
that.
do think it's
Yeah,
a bit of
okay.
scale. It's certainly a resource issue, although, you know, we have comparable kind of per
Yeah.
pupil investments here. So I think, you know, it's worth looking into where, especially I think it was Jefferson.
Jefferson was what I was
Where
gonna
you
say.
see sort of like us, and
Yeah.
we've had an ongoing relationship with Jefferson in different ways. I mean, I know Dr. Showman was when she was previously in the manager of English learner program, she had a connection to that crew up there. And the academic literacy program that we used to teach started there
Yeah.
as sort of their idea. So yeah, we're continuing to kind of, you know, we definitely like just having this information is always helpful, like this, because this comes from the state, right? This kind of district,
Yeah.
this cross-district information. I wanted to give you all a little context,
Yeah, it's
kind
really
of how
helpful.
you know how we're situated, and that was not meant to
Yeah.
compare in any way. It was just more to sort of say like this is what it looks like
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Yeah, no, that was good. I appreciate that. Okay, so talking about the CCI, the College and Career Indicator, that was really interesting to me. So 62% of our students have demonstrated readiness.
Yes.
Do you know how that stacks up in the state or nationally?
So there's a chart. So there's the nation doesn't really have there's a couple measures we use at the national level, but nothing really like that.
Sure.
There is a chart with our regional counterparts in the memo on page 6. So you can see, and we're doing pretty comparably, a little better in a couple cases. You see sort of some of the similar outcomes we're seeing in the other in grad rate.
Oh, yes.
So I think context wise, certainly we outpace the state. At the state level, it's about I think it's about 41%, if memory serves. We have work to do as a state, right? I mean,
We
it's why
do.
we've, you know, the state established the A to G grant a few years ago, which is to help students be A to G eligible. The state, like they've definitely been sort of pushing resources, unfortunately one-time short-term resources, but they have been trying to address this and redress this because, yeah, I mean, A to G completion, which used to be this kind of analogous measure, has always been around like a quarter of the students in the state. So, you know, our outcomes have always been significantly higher. So our bar is different, and that's okay. I mean, it should be higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just to give you some context, kind of
Thank you.
statewide.
Okay, yeah. Well, and looking at the indicators, the list, and I know a bunch of these are something that it says not currently tracking. Pretty much all of those are career readiness, not necessarily college readiness. And so, and you said that some of these are things that are happening, we're just not tracking. Some of these are things that we're just not doing.
Correct.
So I would just really love to see more movement on that front, because it does say that this is meant to be prepares them for post-secondary success and valorizes college and career preparation co-equally. So I don't know, to me, it feels like there's a little heavier balance on the college, which is great, but we do have students who maybe the other track is going to be a better fit for them. And I wonder too, perhaps, you know, connecting the dots. I don't know if these are connected, but maybe the chronic absenteeism and the kids feeling like what they're learning in school isn't relevant. Maybe if we can have more of these career type experiences and classes on that pathway, CTE kind of stuff, that would help close
Do you
that.
mean, excuse me, just to chime in to go along with that, do you mean the trades program such as
Yes.
plumbers, electricians?
Yeah. That's part
Because
of it.
yeah, so, because
that's
a
part of
college and
it.
career ready, how would, like, if a student, and I think that we put a lot of emphasis on college ready, but if a student has a passion for being a plumber, auto mechanic, electrician, there's courses at our community college for that, but how do we know if they could be part of that 38%, I'm looking here, 38% that's not career ready, but maybe they're told there's no test really to take. Do you think you're ready to be a plumber or an electrician, which is an absolute fabulous, wonderful career? I don't know how that would be tracked in these numbers. And maybe these numbers are skewed by somebody, just like what Trustee Jacobson said, they're aspiring to be auto mechanic. That's challenging. I don't know how to change it. I know how to change a tire, but I don't know very much other than that. I'm just saying that if that's someone's passion, then they're not gonna put a lot of emphasis on being college ready, for example.
So I'll just quickly respond. I mean, I think it was a bit of a rhetorical question, but I think you know, the state and we have participated in a heavy college going culture for lots of good reasons, because we could predict 30 years ago racially who was going to go to college and who wasn't. And we sort of said, oh, well, you're good with your hands, so you get to go do these things, right? Like very early in a student's experience. So we really moved sort of for college for all. I think we need to be in a place with a more nuanced approach, obviously, which this indicator is really trying to help us do that. But for us, it's going to take some time to kind of figure out what it means for us, because we also are still committed to all students having the opportunity and access to go to college if that's really what they want to do. So I think that's the tension we're bumping up against, but I do think there's some real opportunities with some of our CTE funding. And we've actually written into some of the recent grants to support like some internship and work experience kind of expansion in the district. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mean, sorry to add on, but really what they're talking about is how are we getting measures for CTE and interest in CTE, and with using the funding and internships. I mean, that's, I believe, and I loved your answer about nuancing, because it really is about nuancing rather than pegging. And you know, and that I think is important. So having the avenues open is I think critical to what you're both talking about.
I was gonna say that, do you remember the photo we took at the CSBA
Yeah.
conference? It looked like we were sitting on, I'm not very good with describing.
A girder.
Okay, thank you. Say it again.
I've never
A
heard the
girder.
word.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and it was a backdrop that looked like we were like construction workers with and then somebody wrote on Facebook, a family member reminded me that my grandfather helped build the tallest building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to say that this was the right time to say that. So thank you.
Trustee
So
Griffin.
hold
Oh,
on,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't want to take too much time, but I really am interested in this. Can our high school students take courses at the adult school for credit, for high school credit?
they cannot. Not while they're high school students.
Not while they're a high school student.
Okay, I'm just wondering because, for example, my niece in Utah got her medical assistant license or certification while she was in high school. It was something, you know, and they had a lot of different. So that when you're graduating from high school, you already have a certificate. Now she wants to be a doctor. She's college bound. So she's working as a medical assistant while she's going to college. So it's not, again, this is nuance, right? It's not like you are pegged to go to college or this. You can do both. Yes, and I'm just wondering if, yeah.
And our dual enrollment partnerships are really the place. So
Mhm,
what used to be the
exactly.
regional occupational centers, that was what these places we used to have everywhere in California. And then the fiscal
Yeah.
crisis happened in 2007.
Okay.
Most of them got disbanded in lots of parts of California, including our own. So now the community colleges really are those opportunity
Mhm.
programs.
Mhm.
And so the hospitality partnership we have with Skyline, our students are getting certificates through that program, right? So they're getting dual enrollment credit, they're getting a certificate, I mean,
Right.
that's really our kind of goal. We are a little hamstrung by the programs we offer, right? We have what we have. We actually don't have any healthcare careers pathways in the district, just because we've had what we've had, right? So we're always looking for opportunities to grow some of those programs and connect to the community colleges. So do know that like that is currently the version of what in Utah it sounds like they have, and we're being directed and sort of supported in
Super.
funneling students to the community colleges to get those certificates and ultimately those AAs and even beyond.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Trustee Griffin.
Okay. It was a good presentation. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of dot connecting here. You know, that slide on the back to school survey, and I think the student board rep was talking about absenteeism and stuff. You know, we on the same slide, we've got student engagement as a high point, and then 40% relevancy on the education. But I think the relevancy kind of relates to the chronic absenteeism. And I think the other thing you can connect the dot to is to see, you know, we were just talking about building trade
CT,
where we have really great opportunities that aren't necessarily a 4-year, 2-year, doctorate program. And if you think about what's been publicized lately about education, particularly college education, it is terribly expensive. People are strapped with debt, like a mortgage for their entire life, and it's not even a very good investment. I mean, it's really more, it becomes a passion that doesn't, that puts people in debt.
Mhm.
And so I think people need to understand that we need to do a better job counseling, promoting all these opportunities so people can get engaged.
And our college and career faculty staff and our school counselors, I mean, they do a lot in those presentations to families and to students. They're actually about to start all that this winter. This is the time of year they do the classroom presentations, and they do a lot to try to encourage students to think broadly about their futures. I think, there's a lot of competing messages from lots of places about college being the only funnel you can go through. So it's hard. We're up against, I feel like, a much broader set of messages.
Right. No, but back to what you said about, there was one point in time when people thought that that certain kinds of kids didn't get to go to college. So it's like changing now that we're thinking more equitably and changing all of that. Yeah, there is a great opportunity. And like you were saying about the community colleges, they offer so many programs, so many resources. Yeah, that's very, very important. Are there any other questions or comments? I have some. Okay. So with the areas of growth, where students were not feeling connected to their teacher and to what they're learning, if you could just give examples of what we're doing to change that?
So as Dr. Kemke indicated, like big picture, the instructional framework really is our large scale move to really have our staff reflect on the extent to which classrooms really are humanized and engaging for students. So that's, I would say, like our big initiative is around that and the implementation of that framework. We spent the day today, like looking at it and talking about it a lot and visiting classrooms. With regard to the other piece around it wasn't around hopelessness, right? It was really more about relevance. I mean, I think it's, it is, again, promoting through our departments, through our through our staff really, providing resources and activities that teachers can bring. I was literally just in a meeting. I was actually just in a our college and career or our career coordinators, who are our CTE staff, who support their staff supported by CTE resources, who bring industry into our classrooms in our CTE classes. They actually had me in a VR headset on Tuesday I was doing like a medical assistant training or like where I was literally in the room with the doctor. I was handing him this thing, and then I ended up sawing, not really, but someone's knee. It was kind of gross,
my
but it was
goodness.
anyway. But the point is, it was a way to give kids exposure without actually
Right,
giving them a
without-
saw.
Interesting.
It was anyway. So there's like we're constantly looking for opportunities to make learning relevant, and we have classes that do that, like our CTE classes in many cases, and some of our other more academic classes as well. But I think there's lots of ways in which we're trying to address that. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dr. Kempke.
I think the other one was around student relationships. And I think a lot of that is starting to identify students early on that are not feeling connected to school. And we do a lot of that through the tier 2 work. So students are beginning to not attend school or beginning to struggle in terms of grades, is really a way that we can start connecting with them, because our teachers do have a lot of students. It's not always about just the teacher. It's also thinking about the other adults on campus and ensuring that they have a positive adult to connect with. So that's all I would add there.
Great. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, great presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, we need to approve the recommendations, right?
No. Just information only tonight.
Oh,
on this
great.
one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on to construction.
No.
No.
We're on projected enrollment and intra-district
Oh,
transfer
you're
lottery.
right, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know why I'm jumping the agenda here. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Good evening, trustees, district cabinet, student representatives. Here to Dawn Scatena, Director of Student Services, here to present collaboratively with the business department and Yancy Hawkins our enrollment recommendations for the year. If you remember, back in October, we had a special study session to talk about how we arrive at projections. We went through a process of how we go through the process of data collection and enrollment and do projections and how we come about these numbers. And so today actually is the work that we've put into it so that we can have some analysis and come to you with some recommendations. So the first slide is a summary slide that shows you the projections from past years. And some of these numbers always do come to fruition, some do not. But overall, the percentage change is pretty, for the most part, is pretty consistent. It's probably got about a margin of error of about 0.5% on an annual basis. So for example, last year we did have a prediction of a negative, so in 2023, a negative 2%. 2.1%. That probably came in about a negative 1.6, something in that range, for example. So for the coming year, we're looking at a drop of 2.8%, so about 3%. And so you can see that does, does change, and it shows over time. We have seen a decline over the past 5 years of over about 12% over since 2020. And so where we were presenting numbers up in the 9,000s about 4 to 5 years ago, we now are in the middle 8,500s for total enrollment. And so some numbers are not always as predictable, or there's still reference to SDC. Those are just reference to IEP students, but it's not all IEP students. It's just specific programs. And so that number generally fluctuates, and it adds to the total. Finally, on this slide, at the bottom, we talked about in October, is it shows how many open seats we have. So if you counted up in a 7-period day and every classroom was being used, how many seats do we actually have in the district if every seat was being used every period? This slide also shows looking ahead, and you can see that we are about to plateau. We're not going to see over 2% drop at any year in the future years after this year. At least that is the projection. That is comforting to a degree, because you'll see it sort of plateau starting next year. So this is sort of what was predicted to be quite a bit of drops over a 5-year period. We're pretty much nearing the end with this incoming class. A couple things to look at when you're looking at whether we're growing or whether we're not. For the most part, year over year students, we don't have a lot of movement. Like a 9th grader becomes a 10th grader, 10th grader becomes 11th grader. There's some students who will leave, some students who will come in. For the most part, those numbers stay pretty consistent. The number that you should always pay close attention to is the previous year graduating class. So this year's graduating class, 2375. And then the incoming class is 1977. And so that gives you an idea of what you're looking at as a drop, but it doesn't always tell the whole story, but it gives you just a real quick, easy glimpse to look at what the drop would be. And this slide, although it doesn't present great on the projector, rather dark, this is actually a slide that gives a lot of different data. And so this slide will show you what our current year capacity and staffing of 8610. That's what we staff and what we use as capacity for our schools. The next column shows our current enrollment as of January 15th as a district. The next column shows our priority enrollment. That is our actual families who have enrolled in the district. So that is our rollover numbers for the current 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, plus our 8th graders who have already enrolled. And so we're doing pretty well in that category in those numbers. We have about 24 days left well, actually, it's probably more like 22 days left for priority enrollment. But we enroll students all the way up and past the start of school. It's just the vast majority, 90% of our families new families will enroll during priority enrollment. Priority enrollment also allows for families to request transfer, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. So using the PowerSchool analytics, we came to a number of total as 8532 as a district, and for and excluding SDC, you can see the non-SDC numbers for what the projections are for next year. We arrived at a number of 8550 for the district. There's a few, so that shows for the different schools. We'll talk about our summary, that a reduction at Aragon, an increase at Burlingame. We're going to keep Cappuccino the same size based on the projections. Hillsdale the same size based on projections. Mills the same size based on projections. San Mateo will see a decrease in numbers. We did make a subtle change. So this was last year, 200 was last year's number for Peninsula and Bridge. And that number should have been adjusted. It never came to board officially in this moment. So that is what's showing the 220, because there's 70 students in Bridge and there's 150 student capacity at Peninsula High School. So in summary, looking at about a 2.8% or about 130 student decrease. That number, the exact N or the exact number of students is sort of an estimate, but we sort of project that about 2.8% reduction based on our partner districts information that has rolled into our system and based on our predictive analytics that we use. So our recommendation is to decrease staffing by 60 students district-wide, a variety of reasons to do that, some of which we'll talk about. It does allow for some free movement and transfers. If we did exactly 131 student reduction, we would not have the ability to do as many transfers. And I'll talk about that when we look at our transfer requests and enrollments, but also that the number came in lower last year. We predicted a 2.3 and it came in more like 1.5. So we want to make sure we have that cushion in case there is a similar type response this year. Some things to think about: local enrollment of our partner districts. Those enrollments are lower. So all of our, for the most part, all of our district partner districts have lower enrollment, I think, except for Burlingame. And projected enrollment is basically decreasing across the board. So we hit an apex or a high point of enrollment or increase in enrollment from 2019 to 2022. We're looking at decreases over the next 5 years. Some of them, for the most part, are gradual, but some are concerning, as you can see in some of the appendix data at the back of the presentation. One of the exceptions out of all the schools, though, is Burlingame will see some growth over the next 5 years. It's not showing as much growth as it was a year ago when I did this presentation. I think we were into the our seat capacity were like predicted to be in the like the 30 or 40 range, which would be a very tight school when you're talking about 7-period day, every classroom being used, a property that cannot expand for the most part or add space. And so those are some of the areas, but those numbers have sort of softened, and actually will have space based on the projections going forward. So one of the things that I know that our trustees pride themselves on are the ability for families to choose a school, and we do have a robust lottery system and interdistrict transfer process that is fair, and with families asking, and we have a lottery that will take place in a few weeks. On this slide, it shows your requests as of, with still about 20 days left, our requests for transfer and where students are requesting and families are requesting for transfers into and out of. I match up these colors because that allows for you to give a real quick glance at your ins and outs and match up schools. So for example, in my world, the perfect scenario is sort of Aragon and Burlingame, because you have 9 requests into Aragon out of Burlingame and 8 requests out of Burlingame into Aragon, unless I mix those up. I think you get the idea. There's a 9 and an 8. Right now, there's only 1 student potentially that is going to be, because we would do one-to-one transfers. So for the most part, those students are going to be taken care of. Where we start to see some glaring areas of gaps are, Mills and Cappuccino, for example. So this number is always very interesting and unpredictable in many ways. I've presented here and seen the Cappuccino and Mills number almost be 1-to-1, where there is a large number of families wanted the IB program, things of that nature. This year, I think the number is about a 20 student gap. As has historically been true, San Mateo, the requests out of San Mateo into Aragon has historically, although this number is better than it's been in past years. I've presented and it's been 150 requests out of San Mateo into Aragon. There's a lot of unique reasons for those requests, and it has to do with how our San Mateo Foster City, middle schools their boundaries are drawn. It's somewhat unique. There's a lot of things in regards to math at Aragon and ideas in the community, things of that nature. But that just shows the ins and outs, and it's important. And we highlight Hillsdale because we do invest into their housing system for their small learning communities. And we do want to, and one of the emphasis that has always been to, make sure that we can get as many students in to Hillsdale in order to support the investment into small learning communities at Hillsdale. I think a couple things to point out. We have about 438 requests. That number will probably cross over the 500 request line. That gives you an idea. If we have 500 requests and we have a little over 2,000 new students coming in, about 1 in 4 families requests a transfer. So 25%. So if you extrapolate that out over 4 years of students, you know, you're talking about significant 2,000 students are, you know, do not go to school where in their boundaries of their of school for their own, you know, personal reasons. Okay. So our recommendations, we are asking the board to use the moderate model. There is a conservative model. We talked about it back in October, the difference between the two. We have found over the last couple of years, the moderate model to be far more reliable than the conservative model. Conservative model would have probably shown a much higher decrease in enrollment. And we already said that even the moderate number didn't hit that number. And so we're very comfortable with the moderate projection numbers. We're looking at a decrease overall of about 60 students in staffing. So decreases of 60 students at Aragon and San Mateo High School, a decrease of 70 students. We're asking for an increase of capacity of 50 students. And we talked about the additional 20 students at Bridge. And then keeping the capacity the same for Cappuccino, Hillsdale, and Mills. So finally, we would like to have the lottery in our intra-district transfers. So the lottery will take place on February 15th. We invite all the presidents of our PTOs to attend. We record and we do a lottery in a random setting. Our system takes care of it. We record it so that everyone understands there's nothing out of the ordinary happening, and it's a completely random drawing. We are asking, though, before the lottery to permit all sibling transfers per board policy to take place. So if a student is, although the sibling has already had a transfer, let's say to San Mateo High School, their sibling will also automatically get it as an 8th grader coming in. We allow the 25 seat lottery seat capacity to take place. So we will run it, the lottery for the 25 seats. Then we will transfer students. This takes, the transfer of the lottery takes place right away normally. So for those 25 seats. So we do it on the 15th, we send an email on the 16th, and then the families have about 10 days to rescind their request. And if not, then that will be the student's new school. We then will ask for transfers up to capacity within reason. So capacity, but allowing for some growth for families who move into the neighborhood, new enrollments. And then finally, and for as long as I've been in this position, we're asking for transfers of all upperclassmen. Any requests for 10th through 12th grade requests for transfer. Reason for this, the vast majority are requests because of when it's only 10%, about 10% of the previous year students who did not get transfer. It's about that number, but that's not really the reason why these requests happen. It's usually because families moved into different areas. So they lived in Aragon's boundaries, they moved to Hillsdale's boundaries, they want to stay at Aragon. We want to respect that, but we do ask the families to apply for the through the transfer process so that it does allow for us to keep balance in the system. The other reason why for the upperclassmen to be transferred is it does it assists with mental health. There's a lot of reasons why students don't go to school. There's a lot of reasons why students have school phobia when they have the idea that, you know what, I get a fresh start somewhere, maybe things haven't gone super well for me. It really allows for them to have that sort of looking ahead to the future of a fresh start somewhere else. After we do the upperclassmen, then we do our one-to-one transfers. And so we match up students, one decision makes 2 families happy, and we match those families up as much as possible. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Yes, Trustee Lamb.
Can you go back to the orange? Yes. So interestingly enough, was last year's the moderate model? Because if you look at or adopted capacities to our enrollment, we were under in most circumstances,
right?
Quite a bit.
Right.
So we're taking that into account.
Taking that into account. So if which is why we did not do 2.8 across the board of last year's capacity. We did 2.8%, just about, of 8,900. And so when we look at that, and that's how we arrive at 8,550
Okay.
or close to.
Okay.
8,550.
I just wanted to, because that glared, that was glaring to me.
Yeah.
You know, almost every single school
I knew I'd
is.
get that question.
Okay.
Trustee Chavez.
So thank you, Trustee Land, for bringing up this slide, because I did have a question about the first column recommended board adopted 2023 to 2024 school year. Every single school site, the column directly to the right, the present enrollment is higher than the board adopted capacity for every school site that's listed there. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, are we happy about that because every school site has more student enrollment than we had originally predicted?
Yeah, I
think
would
so.
be, if it was inverted, I'd be very concerned about our predictions. Remember, this is based on sort of every student taking a 6-period day, and then we supplement with some 7-period support classes, things of that nature. But the reality is very few seniors take 7 periods. Very few seniors take 6 periods. And so that offsets when you have freshmen, for the most part, taking half our freshmen taking 6 periods and 7 periods. So it sort of calls into most principals, assistant principals could build very effective master schedules. And for the most part, they're staffed to 100% of this number. And therefore they'll be able to make and exceed this number because they're very creative with being able to move sections and move teachers around to accommodate as many students as possible.
Trustee Jacobs.
Justin.
So when you say the -60 capacity staffing difference, does that mean jobs are cut, or does that mean teachers are just being moved? What does that mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's probably a better question for HR and business, but in general, it basically we would not have if we have a retirement, it means that
We don't replace them, or
for the most part, but I mean, you're
Okay.
still, there's very few. I mean, that is not going to be a full teacher in any one location. It's spread out amongst sections amongst the whole
Okay.
district.
I don't know.
I love how all of our microphone lights have just turned on automatically to answer that question.
I just
So
don't
it's
know what that
yeah,
means.
It's a really good question. I
Okay.
think honestly, a decline of 60 students is not going to necessitate a reduction in force. It can be handled through attrition, maybe some movement of staff, but not. That is too low of a number to initiate some kind of layoff procedure or anything. So for the teachers watching at home,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
It's not even one full position, is it?
It's about
Or is it?
It's about 2
3.
positions, so
Two
every
positions,
6
so
students
60.
is a section, and then so 10 would be 2, but like Superintendent Booker said, that would be spread out throughout the district. And then we have many, as we'll read tonight, retirements and resignations and people moving positions, so we'll have a lot of ways to incorporate that decrease.
There's other things that will happen. You have a larger senior class than you have freshman class, so fewer sections are being requested by the seniors. I mean, it's not a large number at all.
Any other questions? I have one question. How would you say the cost of living here in this area, and then also the housing situation? How has that, and how will it continue to affect enrollment?
Looking ahead, I think we said this in October, I think the board was very wise in reconfiguring parts of Burlingame's unincorporated area because I think that will be an area that will be developed if housing continues to be a problem, which seems to be the trend. And if you remember, we did, we do have space in Mills, and we did redesign, redo the boundaries in those areas. And so you can probably start seeing that, housing developments are going to be in areas that we're not familiar with. The Rollins Road area across the 101 on the Bay Shore. I think those are going to be areas that could be developed in the future.
And the cost of housing, right?
Yeah, We probably will see an increase in our unhoused students and declarations because more families are double and tripling up.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why it's so important for our school boards to be, to have a good relationship with our city councils and our board of supervisors to influence the decisions they're making around housing and around jobs and around, all of it. So yeah, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Now we need to approve the recommendations.
I'll move adoption of the administration's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Land. Student board reps, how do you vote? No, they don't vote. Sorry about that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item S. Go ahead, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Scatena, for doing all the work for me on the last item that he noted he would co-present with me. So I appreciate that. So the item in front of you is the approval of phase 3 for Hillsdale High School Transite Encapsulation Project. This really is to finish the facelift of Hillsdale High School. For any of you who've been there in the last few months, the exterior just looks great. The encapsulation of the transite is looking really great. The second phase, which is still underway and finishing up right now, really is improvements to the exterior areas, really focusing on outdoor learning spaces and other improvements to the exterior. And this phase 3 is to kind of finish off the rest of the project. This includes a lot of deferred maintenance projects that usually, we would do kind of piecemeal, but as we're doing several of those projects, we wanted to bring them all together in one single project for approval here for efficiency and cost savings. Included in the projects in the deferred maintenance work are a lot of painting. So these are the areas that weren't included or that weren't encapsulated during the transite encapsulation. It includes a new marquee for the front of the school, a replacement marquee, new storefront on the south side of the campus. We replaced it on the north side because that was the most glaring, but when we put in the new storefront to the entrances on the 31st Street side, it really showed that the storefront on the other side probably needed to be replaced as well. And then safety work around the 800 building. It also includes significant HVAC work and chiller work, as well as replacement of many gutters in the facility. The total projected cost is $3.6 million on a construction budget of about $3 million. And it will be funded by a mix of deferred maintenance money for the deferred maintenance needs and RDA for the non-deferred maintenance needs. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. We've got a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Land. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
So I have the next item. This item would have typically been put on consent, but as the board had not approved the project yet, I wasn't going to have the board approve the architect contract prior to the project being approved. So this item is for the approval of the Finney Architects Architectural Services proposal for Hillsdale High School Transite Encapsulation Project Phase 3, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
If there aren't any questions.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by trustee Chavez and a second by trustee Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going on to T, Division of Human Resources. Go ahead, Mr. Black.
The first item is just personnel on consent. Personnel actions on consent.
Yes.
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, can I get I'm sorry, we have a motion by trustee Jacobson, a second by trustee Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Let me scroll down.
Okay, the next is personnel actions on addendum, and I do have 5 recognitions. First is Gloria Gonzalez, a counseling and student services assistant at adult school, is retiring has retired on December 31st after 34 years and 3 months in the district. Janine Dewar, an instructional assistant at Burlingame High School, has submitted her retirement effective January 31st, and she's been at the district for 41 years and 4 months.
Yeah, that's great.
Craig noticed this one. Susan Brown Almos, our Spanish teacher at Hillsdale High School, is retiring effective at the end of the school year, May 31st, and she's been with the district for 22 years. He also mentioned Maria Ustia, a biology teacher at Mills High School. It's retiring at the end of the school year, and she's been with the district for 33 years. And then Janice Tuttle, a nutrition and culinary arts teacher at Mills High School, is also retiring at the end of the year, and she's been in the district for 28 years. Those are our
When people
recognitions.
love the district, they never leave. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion for the addendum.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Land and second by trustee Griffin. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay.
The next item is a declaration of need for fully qualified educators. This came to the board earlier this year, and this is a document that we have to provide to the state in anticipation of having to do special arrangements with teachers who may not be fully qualified for their assignment. We overestimate. We haven't had anywhere near our estimations, but we kept them the same because it went to the board with these numbers before the year started. But like I said, it was on consent, and it should have been on the regular approval process, and therefore we're asking for the board to approve it in open session.
Great. Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Thank you.
I'll second
Second,
that. Oh, go. Sorry.
second, but quick question.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't give it just does a general declaration, not specific numbers, right?
It gives numbers that we estimated for the different type of credentials, like limited assignment permits, limited assignment permits, emergency permits.
I got it. I got the wrong, I was looking at the wrong.
And
thing.
ELAC.
Sorry. I got it.
Okay.
Yep, never mind.
All right.
Second,
Okay.
I'll still keep second.
So we had a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to, we don't have anything in Division of Student Services. And then moving on to Division of Instructional. Go ahead, Dr. Kemke.
Yes, so I'm here tonight with Dr. Schauman and requesting the approval for the Bridge program to apply for a CDS code, which would officially have the Bridge program become its own school. And so there's a whole bunch of documentation that Dr. Schauman put together on all of the good reasons for this in support of the students and all the ways that will support their burgeoning program. So we're putting that request for approval.
Thank
I
you.
make a motion to approve the bridge program application.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by trustee Land, second by trustee Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
I just want to say this is so important. Our students have to see themselves in the community, and this is just going to be excellent. So thank you, Dr. Schauman, for all of your work, and Dr. Kemke as well. Thank
I
you.
also want, if I could say something through the chair. I want to say that I visited the Bridge program a few times. Amazing work, and I still have my sticker there on my phone. Amazing work. So that's what I want. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
And if I could, just to connect the dots a bit, Mr. Simmons' presentation on graduation rates, all those academic presentations, right? If we connect the dots around our multilingual learners and some of the struggles they're having across our district, you know, this idea of a formation of bridge as a school rather
Yeah.
than a program, I think in so many respects, puts our money where our mouth is. Like we want to move the needle. And I know this has been a big issue for the board, especially when I came on board, is to move the needle with our most vulnerable students. And the work that Dr. Showman and her entire team is doing over at Bridge is moving the needle. And I think shifting to a community school, all the things that we have a vision around, I think are real tangible ways that we're going to see that needle move over the next several years. I'm really proud of it. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, and there's also, you know, a lot of students that are in these situations sometimes feel really othered. And this brings community and makes you feel part of the community. So thank you. All right. Going on to item X, Division of Business Services, Mr. Huckins.
Thank you so much. This is the time of year in January where the governor proposes that his first budget for the next fiscal year, in this case, the 2024-2025 state budget update. In terms of process, the governor will provide a revised budget proposal in May, which will bring you an update on that. And then the statewide budget was required to be approved by June 30th. And once they started withholding the pay of the legislatures, suddenly our budgets actually started getting approved on time on June 30th. So in terms of this year's budget, I think the big news around there that everyone's probably heard about was the LAO's report of a very large budget deficit at the state level in the $60 billion range. One piece of good news is that the governor's proposal only projects a $44 billion shortfall. But that is much lower than the LAO's report of a little over 60 billion. Within there, it's actually, given that there's a $44 billion shortfall in the budget, luckily there are no proposed cuts to education in this budget. I will say, though, that the proposal uses reserves and some accounting tricks to get through that budget, which is just important to note. If we continue to have budget shortfalls at the state level, those will have dried up, and really that likely cuts to either the education or the other portion of the budget will be required. The proposal also even provides for a very small COLA at this point, projected at 0.76% for the 24-25 years, or 25 year. There is no one-time money included in this proposal, so that is in line with what is this year in the budget.
Hello?
Especially,
Hello? I don't know if you guys can hear me. I can't hear you guys. It's really, there's a lot of like static. It's hard to hear everyone. It got worse and worse as we went along. Now I can't hear anything. Still can't hear anything. We still can't hear anything. Geofrida, we're free to go. Read your email.